I'm fearful of a heart attack. And most of the food that I push away and the cardio that I do that I don't want to do and the strength training, it's not to look good on the beach. I already have a beautiful wife that loves me dearly, okay? It's I don't want to have a f***ing heart attack. I'm scared of it. And motivation has its place. We all need to get motivated at times, but motivation is like, it's something that you use here and there. It's decisions and fear. Ignore all the people who say, don't be so hard on yourself, Nick. Don't be so hard on yourself, Mike. No, the problem is you're not being hard on yourself. There's a way out.
The motivation myth. This is this week's episode, and I think it's really important because a lot of people are waiting for motivation to strike, but action is what turns into motivation. It's not the other way around.
30 years being a trainer, Nick, you're absolutely correct.
Have you seen this in practice in your day-to-day training?
Absolutely, bro. Most people that hire me will say at some point, Mike, I'm not like you. You don't understand. I'm not motivated. Nick, motivation is not something that you're born with. I don't even have motivation. Everything I've ever accomplished in my life, pretty much, Nick, has been through fear.
Yeah. Fear of failure, fear of not having enough money or not having a successful career or whatever it is.
Absolutely. Actually, the first thing, because I'm dyslexic and learning disabled, my work ethic pretty much came from I didn't know how I was going to get through life, and I didn't know how I was going to support myself. So people give me a lot more credit than I deserve.
But you decided to take action. You decided to get out there every day and do something. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing. If you're sitting around waiting for motivation to strike, it's not coming, right? It's just not going to happen. What you need to do is start with an action, whatever it is, whatever new habit that people are trying to form. It's not just going to fall out of the sky and hit them. They have to take actionable steps to get to that point.
Absolutely. You need to take a list of the things that you fear, whatever endeavor you're talking about, and make a list, a mental list, and say, what are the ramifications if I don't make a change in this particular thing? And then go and just take action, like you said.
Our brains are wired to do just that. Our brains are wired to create new habits. It's called neuroplasticity. It's the way that our brains will create almost like tracks in our mind. And as we do these actions or these tasks more and more, those tracks get deeper and deeper and they get easier to fall into.
So let me ask you then, when you say our brains are wired that way, then it could be habits, both good and bad. Is that right?
100%. So the more you ruminate on negative thoughts, the more you pick up bad habits like smoking or, eating bad foods, not exercising, all these things. Those are the ruts you're creating. Those are the tracks you're laying down that then every day you get up and you walk in those same tracks.
So that's important because I think when people think about getting in shape and nutrition and training, they think about habits as something positive. Oh, I can't get that type of habit. I'm not motivated. But what you're saying is the opposite can be true. If people keep on ruminating on the negative, then they're just going to keep on going down that road.
Right.
And, a lot of times people think about fitness and training and nutrition and a body and things that they can achieve. And essentially what you're saying is they're convincing themselves that they're going to end up being right.
Well, negative thoughts are obviously self-defeating. It's hard, though, a lot of times to change that around. If you've ever felt depressed or if you've ever felt like blue or down, which, I know I have, the path of least resistance is actually to get worse, to go deeper into that depression. It's like a cathartic feeling to tell yourself how bad you are and how it's never going to work out for you. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. And the worse it gets, the easier it is to dive deeper into that mode.
Wow, that's incredible. And I will say, Nick, the beginning, we'll do videos on this, but the beginning of my life was pretty challenging, but it's been pretty upward trajectory for me for the last 30 years of my career. But as you know, I've had a shit year. My dog died and my dad died and I had...
But that was 2024. We're in 2025
I was
now.
hospitalized. But let me tell you something. Even Mike Lynch, I started to feel like I was just getting punched and punched and punched. And what you're saying is kind of like something I never even thought about. When you keep on getting slammed and slammed, it's easy to like just
You're pointed in a bad direction, and now you're heading in that direction.
slam. And I guess you can actually invite that to keep on happening to you if that's all you're focused on. And it's,
Well, if every day you get up and say, there's a dark rain cloud over my head and everything that happens to me is negative and everything that happens to me is bad, you're attracting all that energy towards yourself. And I know that sounds like a little hippy dippy and some BS, but it's true.
Yeah.
And they've proven that when you don't feel happy, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling depressed, and you simply go outside and walk past someone and smile at them, you can almost trick your brain into thinking that you're actually not that depressed and sad anymore. By the simple act of smiling, you can change your own mood. And so it's not just for other people to say hello, to smile, to do something nice for someone. You're going to make yourself feel better.
Wow. That's crazy stuff. The brain.
Yeah. I mean, the brain is really powerful, but it's not so powerful that it can't be adjusted or changed in ways to benefit yourself.
Wow. Yeah. So, look, doing this for 30 years, training people and helping people transform their lives, it's kind of like it's the nutrition, the training, but more importantly, it's the mindset that gets you to take action on those two pillars because they're very important. Nutrition and training, although they're totally different, they go really well together.
Yeah.
And some people, trainers, will be like, oh, getting abs is 90% your diet. I think that's a fool's game. I think it's 100% diet, it's 100% training. They're two different things, but they're really good when you put them together. It's like peanut butter and jelly. Which one's better?
Yeah.
When you put them together, they're magical.
Right.
Peanut butter and chocolate. We can do this all day long. So the mindset is a real huge thing to really, if you hone into that, it makes those two things where you don't have to employ motivation. It's a decision. It's a decision for me and my clients out of fear.
But again, you also will feel better. I mean, this is something that in the last few months, I've started my strength training journey again.
I can tell.
I was dealing
can
with
tell
an
ya.
injury. I'm not jacked by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm out there. I'm doing some strength training. And it was just last night that I had finished work. Usually I try to get it done in the morning. That's when I feel the most motivated. But if I'm unable to, I'll do it in the evening if I had to. And man, I had to talk myself into doing it last night. It was really difficult, but I said to myself, actions. I'm going to get out there. I'm just going to do a little bit. Let me see how I feel. And as soon as I started moving, I just did it. And then I looked at the clock and I realized I was almost done. And then once you're almost done, now you just got to finish, right? So I just finished it up.
I gotta look, yo.
And honestly, I'm feeling better. I'm feeling better. 2.5 months into strength training, I'm getting 3 days a week right now of lifting weights, and I'm still doing, obviously I walk every day with the dog, and I'm skateboarding on Sundays, so I'm active in a lot of ways. But those 3 days for me right now of strength training, and I'm going to work up to a fourth, I think. But for now, that's what works with my schedule, and I'm just being realistic about it. It's been really good for me. But is it easy every day? No, it's not. There are some days where I wake up and I'm like, all right, let's go. I am motivated, right? Because I'm working off that feeling that I have. But last night I was not motivated. I really had to talk myself into it. And I really just needed to talk myself into starting. It wasn't that I had to think about the whole thing. I just had to say,
Yeah.
just put the damn shoes on.
Yeah.
Just put on the video. Just do whatever you got to do. Start it.
Yeah. Nick, it's when the start is the hardest part, right? So I always say this, you have to pay the tax man one way or the other, right? So if you gave into that and said, nah, you would have paid your tax later down the road. You would have got the easy pass. I'm gonna go on the couch, watch TV, hang out with my kids, whatever, or with my wife. But then you wake up today and feel like shit. Your muscles wouldn't feel as good. You feel maybe a little more tired. Metabolism wouldn't be as active today. But you paid the tax man up front. You were like, I don't want to work out, but I need to. And now you paid your tax. And so you get hard in the beginning and then you get fun in the end.
Yeah.
And if you get fun in the beginning, you'll get hard down the road. And these are the simple things that people can think about to take motivation. And motivation has its place. We all need to get motivated at times, but motivation is like It's something that you use here and there. It's decisions and fear-based driven results is if I don't do this, one of my fears, Nick, is I don't want to have a heart attack. People in the Lynch family, we love to have heart attacks. So people will say, "Oh, Mike, you're so motivated." I'm like, "No, I'm not." I feel like I need to look a certain way to be a trainer and collect money because that would be like being a broke financial advisor, right? So I have that commitment and that gun against my head, I always say. We have different guns against our head of motivation, right? But I would rather fight three guys in a bar, Nick, than have a heart attack. Now, I've only seen it on TV, thank God, but I'm fearful of it. I'm fearful of a heart attack. And most of the food that I push away and the cardio that I do that I don't want to do and the strength training, it's not to look good on the beach. I already have a beautiful wife that loves me dearly, okay? It's I don't want to have a fucking heart attack. I'm scared of it. And 50% of the men that have heart attacks, the first symptom is sudden death. And I know that's going to be my fate. And that is my motivation. So when people are like, "You're so motivated, Mike. I wish I could be more like you." I'm like, "Yo, you got to find shit that you're scared of. You're not finding those things. You're reading too many hippie bullshit things. You got to get in touch with the fear of things that you don't want to face in life and say, what could I do to avoid that fear?"
I think a heart attack is a pretty universal fear, or at least it should be. And if people aren't worried about having a heart attack, they're just not thinking about their heart health because it's, potentially coming for anybody, young, old, fat, skinny, these things. A heart attack can happen. It's every, 33 seconds, someone dies of a heart attack.
Statistically, it's coming for more of us than not. That's the number one killer for both men and women.
So that's a good motivating fear.
Yes. So people will see me on the beach, we have friends and stuff, and they see the six-pack abs. I don't really give a shit about that. I like it, don't get me wrong, but I don't fear not having abs. I fear having a fucking heart attack in my kitchen while
Right.
I'm
It's not
cooking
vanity.
chicken breast.
It's exactly.
Yes.
It's the fear of keeling over.
Yeah, man, there's so many things I love to. I'm having such a great time right now with you, Nick. I'm gonna go and do things today. I don't want to give it up. And I always say there's no future in death. So everything I do when it comes to fitness at this stage of my life, at 52, is fear of death, man.
Right. At 22, maybe it's more vanity. You want to look good. You're going to Vegas with your friends in a couple months. You're going to hang out at the pool for a little while. You want to have the best abs in town. Fine. But once you get to your mid 30s, especially your 40s, you're working out to stay healthy.
Yeah.
You're working out, you're exercising, you're eating right so that you can live to be 85, 95, hell, 100 if we can.
And God rest his soul, I always had the motivation of my dad. My dad had a heart attack at 29 years old. He had a pacemaker at 29 years old. So I did have that heart attack fear at a young age, and I knew that the Lynches, a lot of them have what's called widowmakers, which are deadly heart attacks. It's the heart attack that you don't come back for a second shot. So I did, even when I was more vanity driven, I still had that heart attack thing looming over my head. So, but the person that's watching this, Nick, they just got to come up with a checklist of shit that scares them. And it doesn't have to just be about fitness. It could be about their wife or their husband leaving them. Maybe they're not saying I love you anymore. Or, maybe they're not paying attention to their kids and the kids are going to end up hating them down the road. You have to be mindful of the things that you're most fearful of. And for most things in life, there's a way out or a way to push that can down the road because, as they say, none of us make it out alive, right? We're all going to succumb to something. But I'm going to claw my way not to have a heart attack. And the way I'm going to do it, Nick, you're going to do a lot of bleeping in this video because I'm very passionate about it, is do eating healthfully and exercising most days of my life. And I'll get it wrong, but then I'll beep the out of myself the next day to overcompensate for the Doritos and the extra vodka and, the missed workout. There is no free ride, brother. And that's what people need to know. It's not about motivation. It's about decisions and action. Like you said in the beginning, action.
Forget intensity, it's consistency, right? Just get out there and start it every day. You know, people who are very, very successful in their careers, you got like a person like, let's say, Michael Phelps, or a writer like Stephen King. These are people who, rain or shine, Christmas or birthday or regular day, they get out and they do what they have to do. They get their laps in the pool. They write for 2 hours consistently. You know, they're doing whatever their craft is. They've made a conscious decision to be consistent with it. And not every day will be a day where you knock it out of the park. Sometimes you strike out and you get back up the next day and you do it again. You're not going to have the most intense workout every time you work out. Sometimes you're actually going to feel like garbage, and you push through and you go and you do it the next day. And the next day you might feel good. And with anything, this isn't just about working out. This isn't just about, being healthy. This could be about a new hobby that you want to start, or anything that you want to do that you feel might be a positive influence in your life. Consistency. Create a routine that incorporates whatever this new thing that you want to do is, and do it every day, or at least 5 or 6 days a week. And that way you start, working it into whatever your routine is, and then it just becomes habit, right? Even on the days you're not motivated.
Absolutely. And it comes back to what me and you are doing, right? You're in film and TV, and I'm a trainer, and we decided to do this together. And what was one of the first things we said when we decided to do this? We got to put out a video at least once a week.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we've done it, right? Sometimes we got to do 2 or 3 episodes in a day because you travel here, but we haven't missed a week. And we're not going to miss a week. And it's that consistency. Even if the only people that ever watch our shit is our parents, at least we'll know that we were always consistent. And that is a huge thing, Nick. And I'm happy that you brought that up, because some days you're going to fall flat and it's going to be a 2 workout. And the other days it's going to be a 12. And the other days it's going to be a 2. And then some days you'll get 2 good meals in, but there'll be 1 shit meal. But it's consistency over time. And that is where the juice is.
Because your brain is working against your motivation. A lot of times, you'll either be filled with negative thoughts, or your brain will come up with 100 reasons why you shouldn't do something, right? And the way to fight against that is with routine. It just simply is. To just get out there and say, yeah, I might hurt myself today, or yeah, I might be tired at the end of this, or yeah, I probably, could fill that time with something else. But let me just start. Let me just do it, because every day at 6 a.m. before I get ready for work, I do this. Or every day when I get home, I do this. Or every Friday when I go shopping, I'm going to start to get less, processed carbohydrates and more whole foods and grains into my diet. Whatever it is, create those routines in your life, and the routine will outweigh the negative emotions that you've tied to this habit that's been so hard to start. I would ask people to critically look at their weekly schedule and to really tell themselves, what's more important, to watch an extra half hour of TV or to get some exercise in?
Yeah.
I think the exercise, right? How much TV are you watching during the week? How much social media have you done this week? How many things have you done this week for hours that are not helping you live a healthy, happy life? Probably at least a half hour a day. And for some people, it could be 3 or 4 hours a day, where they're just wasting time, not helping themselves, probably feeling worse about themselves at the end of it, right? And they can find this time, they can carve out a new routine today.
Right. You know what's interesting, Nick? One thing that you didn't hit on there that a lot of people fall into, and I'm like, yo, you hate your life and you're so unhealthy. They'll be like, oh, I can't get up that early. If you just get, and maybe it's just for 6 months, if you get 30 minutes less sleep, and we did a sleep video, right?
Yeah.
And you exercise. Yeah, exactly. If they would just get, let's say I don't want to give up my social media, and I don't want to give up my arcade, whatever they do, well, get a little less sleep for 6 months and get your ass up, meal prep, or do 30 minutes of exercise, a couple of days a week. The less sleep or the reduction in sleep, you're going to end up being better in 6 months. Because if you can't give up, and maybe somebody's working 2 jobs or whatever, and they're fat and they're hypertensive and they're on 17 different medications, get less sleep for 6 months. get that motivation and then get that workout. And then by default, maybe you'll spend less time on social media because you start to be, because people are, like you've said this many times before, Nick, people are just going for the dopamine hits. Right? They're looking at things and they're watching this or you've talked about this, they're arguing online about politics that they can't change instead of changing what they can change, their health and their fitness. So stop doing that shit. Sleep a little less. You'll be better off in the end.
If that's the only time that you can squeeze it in during the day. If you're really saying to yourself, I am packed from the minute I wake up till the minute I go to sleep, try half hour less of sleep.
Exactly.
And the thing is, if you do the same thing you've always done, you're going to get the same results.
Yep.
Right? Change it up. Every year, change something about yourself to try to trend in a more positive direction. Unless you're perfect. And maybe there's somebody out there who is. I haven't met him yet, right? But maybe there is somebody out there who's totally perfect, and you, my friend, should just keep doing what you're doing. But for everyone else,
And if you can, leave a comment of what you're doing so we can.
yeah, because I'd like to jump on that train too, right? But for everyone else, try to change something up. If you're not happy with yourself, if you're not happy with the way you look, with the way you feel, with the answers you're getting from your doctor when you go get your blood work, or when you go on the scale, or just even in the stamina that you have when you go out to try to do something, change something about yourself in a positive way, and maybe you'll actually get a better result. But if you do the same thing you've done over and over and over again, and the only thing you change is the new jacket you buy or the new shoes you buy, you can't buy your way out of this problem. You cannot buy your way into feeling better.
You still can't click and swipe your way into fitness. You can't, it's still something you have to go out and do labor for. And that labor is mapping out your day and when you're going to eat and what you're going to eat. And you still got to do the reps and sets, and maybe maybe one day they'll open our back up and put a computer chip in and go, you're fit. So be it. But for right now, it's got to be those actionable steps, and it's a decision. And if you're waiting,
I can't just get on that machine that has like the belt that goes around you and it jiggles you, and that kind of like activates all my muscles, and I can like eat a donut while it's jiggling me. And so what is that called? What is that thing?
anybody who's under the age of like 45 that's watching this video is saying, what the is Nick talking about?
But you know what I mean, right? Is there a name for that? And how come I don't see that in gyms anymore? What is that? It's from like the 1950s. For people who don't know, it looked like a box that it like would be placed right around your midsection's height. And then from that box came a big belt, and it would go around you. I think it went around your back, and you would just stand there, and you'd see people in like the 1950s, and it's like their workout was getting into this machine and having it like jiggle you or like vibrate or something.
If you live now and you're young enough, oh my God, there's no reason to be out of shape because you have so much knowledge on, all these tracking devices, and we know so much about insulin, all these different things. YouTube, you could get knowledge, and you get a lot of bad knowledge.
But it hasn't gotten easier. It's still difficult for people. They have more knowledge, but you still have to put in the hard
But at
work.
least back then, what we didn't know, we had doctors smoking butts and machines that were jiggling us, and we were like, why am I still fat? Right? So at least people now, they have the blueprint, and they just got to take actionable steps each and every day. And going back to what you said in the beginning, what is this 2-minute thing?
The 2-minute rule is breaking down a new habit so that in the beginning, right when you started, all you're asking yourself to get motivated to do, to put into action, is 2 minutes worth of that new habit.
That's amazing. I thought we talked about it in the beginning video. We talked about before we started. It's 2 minutes. That's crazy.
And the reason why 2 minutes works is it's a sweet spot between feeling like you've gotten something accomplished, but not telling yourself right off the bat that you're going to do so big of an exercise routine or so long of a workout that you talk yourself out of it before you even start, right? So think about it like this. If you say to yourself, I want to start running, I'm going to go for a 45-minute jog, immediately your brain is going to start saying, 45 minutes? You got to get ready for work. You got to walk the dog. You might hurt your knee. 45 minutes. You're not going to make it. You're not going to do 45 minutes. What are you kidding me? Now, this is all the internal dialogue happening in your mind, right? But if all you say to yourself is, I'm going to put on my running shoes. I'm going to put on my outfit. I'm going to stretch. I'm going to go for a 2-minute jog around the block. Or let's say working out even. I'm going to wake up every day and start doing push-ups. If you say to yourself, I'm going to do 50 push-ups tomorrow, you immediately start talking yourself out of it. 50 push-ups, you'll never make it. Well, you're going to feel like you're going to try that. You're not going to do it. Then you're going to feel worse than you did before. You're going to hurt yourself. But if you say to yourself, I'm going to do 2 push-ups. Let me just get down on the ground. Let me just try this out. And you go there and you want to do 2 minutes worth of whatever exercise you're doing. You might find that once you're doing it, you're just going to keep going. Because I think it's unlikely that you probably only do 2 push-ups. Once you've done 2, you're like, well, let me just do 10. Once you've done 10, you're going to say, you know what? Let me just get 3 reps of 10 in.
I can tell you right away, Nick, that what you're saying is absolutely true.
Now, the 2 minutes, though, there is a reason to get to that 2-minute mark. It's called the minimum viable effort. And what they mean by that is if you can get to that 2-minute mark, your brain will actually start releasing dopamine as if you've accomplished your goal. And that's what helps people to really get motivated, to stay motivated, because you have that dopamine release that you get from social media or that you get from negative things by doing something positive for yourself and keeping it going for that until that 2-minute mark.
Right. And dopamine, most people know, but for the people that don't know, right, it's just a feel-good neurotransmitter in the brain,
Basically,
right?
yeah, it's your brain like releasing a feel-good chemical
Okay.
that says like, yeah, we can keep doing this. And
Okay.
it's your brain's way to almost trick you into doing things more and more. Like,
Right.
oh, okay, like
This
release
feels
the
good,
dopamine.
keep going.
This feels good, keep going. And that's
Turn
what
2
social
into 4
media
minutes.
is. Exactly. And so when you get to that 2-minute mark, your brain is basically telling your body, "Oh, you're doing something good here. Okay, here's a little bit of that little dopamine hit for you." And so you wanna get to that point, and that dopamine hit is actually gonna help you push past that 2-minute mark.
Yeah.
But you wanna get to that 2-minute mark for whatever it is.
And that's important, Nick, too, because do you know there's studies that show that, when you've had this experience before, you go out to a restaurant, and you're eating foods that maybe you're excited for,
Sure.
right? Not healthy stuff. Do you know that they've linked people up? There's actually a dopamine response that your brain gets as the food is being wheeled towards you.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. You don't even have to have the food. Once you know the food is coming,
Yes.
you start salivating, your brain, the
brain
fireworks
like-
start going off.
Yes. So that's pretty cool that if you just get to that 2 minutes, that the brain can do the same thing for healthy stuff, not just food.
And it's a positive feedback loop because that small action gives you that sense of achievement, gives you that little dopamine, which then actually does motivate you to keep that action going and turn a small action into a big action.
Right. So I think what you're saying is basically know where you're getting your dopamine hits from, because as we know, we could be getting dopamine hits from drugs and
Correct.
negative fighting on the internet and arguing with somebody. It's where do you get the dopamine hits from? And if you're going more towards negative dopamine hits, I would assume that your life would follow
A negative path.
Yes.
Yeah, you're going down a negative path.
Yeah.
Now, with any new habit, you can think about it very simply like pushing a car. And I know you've said this before, right? But if a car is stalled out and you got to get it off the road, you got to push it and it's standing still, the hardest part about moving that car is getting it started, right? When it's at a dead standstill, starting moving that car, it takes every ounce of energy that you have in your body and whoever else is helping you to get that thing moving.
Veins
right?
are popping out of you.
Exactly. But once that car has started moving, you're almost on autopilot. You're pushing, but you're barely pushing and it's moving,
Yeah.
right? And that's with any habit. It's getting that habit started is the hardest part. Starting that first run, starting that first morning push-up routine, starting changing the way you're eating. The hardest part is the very first day. It's the very first time. But telling yourself that it's going to be consistent and starting that day 1 and then getting to day 2 and day 3, by the time you get to that 2-week mark, that 3-week mark, now it's just what you do.
Yep.
Now that car is just rolling. And I think, you can say it 1,000 times, it doesn't make it easier, right? So it is something that you've got to decide for yourself. Today's the day I change. Today's the day I make a routine that I stick to.
Let me end with this, Nick. 30 years doing this, training people, transforming people, helping them transform themselves. People will come in and they'll rattle off how difficult it is to do this and meal prep and lunges are difficult. And I'll stop them in their tracks. I said, listen, all these things that you're talking about that you're claiming that are difficult are very easy. And they're things that you have to look at that you get to do. Like when people universally, Nick, they hate lunges. And when they lunge, I stop them. Lunges. I said, stop. Do you know how many millions of people are in wheelchairs that would die just to do one lunge? Go, move. I think that all this stuff is pretty easy when you look at it, because I'll tell you what is difficult. A life of being embarrassed to go to a beach, take your shirt off, hide in a fucking picture, not go to a pool party, die at 40 instead of 90. Those are difficult. Those suck. Those really suck. A life where you're just so insecure. You're just fighting through the day, washing down energy drinks and coffee because you have no energy. Your mitochondria in your body aren't functioning right. That shit's difficult. This set, it's going to end in 30 seconds. Stop. Stop convincing yourself. You're being a loser and you're going to win. So stop looking at what's difficult. This is easy. You get to do this shit. There's guys that fought in wars for you and me that had no arms that were dying to do a pull down. And here you are complaining about it. And they just look at me with this blank stare. I'm like, look, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just doing what you hired me to do to motivate your ass. This is not difficult. It burns, but it ends in 30 seconds.
And I think,
so what do you want to do? You want to win or you want to lose? And that's what people need to know. They can start to win today.
let's end there, but I want to challenge people, if they're feeling defeated, if they're feeling like they're unable to start a new routine, try out the 2-minute rule. This could be really transformational for some people. Break it down, and we've talked about chunking a little bit before, but break it down into a very small chunk and see what you can get accomplished in a week. And I think people will be really surprised at what they can, how they can change their life and what they can do to really force that motivation to come up from nowhere, to turn action into motivation.
I love it. I love it. 2 minutes, man.
Anything else to add?
Yeah, I do. You know, a lot of times people, Nick, a great saying that people say, which is not great, is don't be so hard on yourself. So they should take your 2-minute rule, and they should also be very hard on themselves. Make a list of things that you hate about yourself, that you don't like about yourself, that you know you need to change, what your wife said you need to change, what your doctor needs to change, and be super hard on yourself because you got one shot. Ignore all the people who said, don't be so hard on yourself, Nick. Don't be so hard on yourself, Mike. No, the problem is you're not being hard on yourself. There's a way out. Educate yourself. Watch this video, watch another video, and take that one step. Take that one house at a time, like my client Val said. You know, do those 2 minutes, and then 2 minutes are going to turn into 3 minutes. Be hard on yourself, because once the curtain falls, brother, like I always say, there's no future in death. There's no future in death. So stop with the bullshit stories and let's get moving. Let's get moving and get rocking and rolling and get your life back, because so many people are lost.
If you like the content you're watching, besides the likes and the comments, share it with somebody else you know who might really enjoy this content. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Please hit the like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any content in the future.